Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guildhouse. This is a weekly podcast in which I, Matthew Whitby, sit down and chat with amazing creators all across the DMsGuild space. And this week, I'm honoured, as always, to be joined by Sadie Lowry. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, happy to have you on and stuff like that. I think so. I think it's a funny thing of where I put out like a tweet saying I'd like to suggest for people to come on. And then I think privately I approached you to be like, do you mind coming on? And that's when we had, I think it was Steve come in and be like,
Steve, yeah.
So,
get Sadie.
Yeah, it's like, what is it? Yeah, great minds think alike and all that. But for people who may not, know some of the stuff that you've done in the past, what sort of products are you known for on the DMsGuild?
Sure. So I am known for a couple of Eberron Adventures, A Darkness from the Stars and Deathless Skies of Sire. I think more than that, people probably know for the Adventurous Domestic Handbook, which was led by Lydia Van Hoy. I was one of the writers and the editor on that, along with Lydia. And I think that's sort of what's kickstarted my name getting out there, maybe. But yeah, I'm known for adventures, supplemental material. It's hard to say, what people know me for. So I like to think that I'm known for very role-play focused material, right? That my adventures give lots of role-play opportunities, and that the Adventurous Domestic Handbook is about bringing role-play and community to the table. I may also be known as that weird person in the Creators Lounge who keeps talking about editing and like grammar rules. I don't know.
I was going to say, I think it was not too long ago where there was a particular. To call it a rant is not nice. It's like it was so insightful, but it was like you're clearly passionate about editing.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing that came across was like, wow. I mean, if I need an editor, I should probably get in contact with.
I have feelings.
Yeah, no, and funny enough, so I one of the mottos for this podcast is definitely hire an editor, and I think there's probably some interesting conversations that we can sort of have there. But before I get too deep into that, what was your first product, and like how long have you kind of been on the DMsGuild?
Not very long, actually, which is mind-blowing when you think about it.
Time flies.
Yeah, so I've been here since last fall. I think it was November. I don't remember. So the fall RPG Writers Workshop call went out. I ran to my best friend and I went, do this with me. And we signed up, not even realizing how big of a world of creating was on the other side. We just went, yeah, let's make an adventure. So my first adventure was published, and I remember this very specifically, December 14th last year.
Nice.
So I've been here, it's June, 7 months? 6-7 months now. And it's been crazy. It's been wild.
So actually, one thing I was going to say, so with Darkness from the Stars and the Deathly Skies of Sire, that was, again, both of them are set in Eberron. Was there anything particular that sort of attracted you to that setting, or just made it like a natural place to start?
That's a good question. So I think that Laura Hersbruner is going to kill me for this. I originally thought of Eberron as like the steampunk setting, which scandalous. I know.
I think it was it. That's the one thing that I know. Like, if I ever wanted, just poke at a writer of Eberron, it's just like, oh, the steampunk one.
The steampunk one, yeah.
I think what was
Gears, cogs, yeah.
Yeah, what is it? The best way to call it is train punk. I think that's.
You know what? Yeah. Yeah, I feel
it's a little closer, but no, sorry, you were saying.
So when I first got started in the workshop, I think I was sort of panicking because I didn't feel tethered to anything, because most of my D&D content before that point had been completely homebrew. I was running a weekly campaign. I mean, I've been running a weekly game every Thursday for 2 years at this point almost, but it's all homebrew, and I'm a player in another game, but it's all homebrew. So when they were like, pick a setting, pick something, I was like, I don't know what anything is.
Yeah.
And so I kind of latched on to Eberron as like, okay, I can understand steampunk. I didn't actually understand Eberron, as you can tell. But then so I did Darkness from the Stars, and because I picked a couple of locations that sounded really cool, the observatory and, this mountain range. And then the Eberron community was so warm and receptive. That's the thing, is I would keep creating for Eberron in a heartbeat, and I might just, because they are so receptive and willing to take people in. And so when I did Deathless Skies of Sire, that one was mostly set in Eberron again, because the idea that Amber and I had when we were creating it was, we want a big airship Leviathan fight. Yeah. And there's no better place for that than Eberron. So it's almost both of them have sort of almost happened accidentally, kind of coincidentally. I've fallen into Eberron, but it's not a place that I'm unhappy to be. I like being there. I wouldn't mind continuing to create there.
Yeah, and I must admit, so I think, so funny enough, I think starting as a Forgotten Realms author, and sort of almost looking longingly at all the sort of Eberron writers have talk about how amazing it is, and there are always parts of, like, it's almost like I feel like once I start writing for Eberron, I may not stop. Yeah. But no, it's one day. It's like it definitely is on my to-do list, because there's so much I think that the Eberron setting does right, that the Forgotten Realms, for being longer, I think, was it the fact that Eberron is a slightly newer setting? I think I hope no one fact checks me on that. It sort of allows it to have slightly more, just nice ideals sort of baked into the world building.
Yeah, no, you should totally create for it. See, I feel the same way about Ravnica. I know nothing. Like, I look longingly at Curse of Strahd products and Ravnica, and I'm just like, a distant dream.
Yeah, one day. No, I guess that is the thing. Is like it is intimidating to jump from setting to setting, just because, again, I don't want to say baggage. Each setting has its own lore. And
history.
A history and stuff like that.
Not just current history, but past history that you have to know and you have to engage with. And that's intimidating for a new writer who hasn't been here for 40 years and hasn't been playing D&D since the dawn of time.
And I suppose, again, that's what, I like you, that I run like a semi homebrew game. And it is always satisfying when you have that moment, just like, I guess we just make it up. I guess we have that. We could just put something in there.
I can just do what I want. Yeah. No one's going to call me out on it.
So actually, I do also want to pick up on something that you mentioned about when it comes to writing adventures, about looking for, like, I guess, like, key roleplay moments. I think it's do you have, like, is there any sort of, like, system, or, like, what in your mind is, like, a standout roleplay moment?
That's a great question. So when I talk about roleplay moments, specifically me, Sadie, what I'm looking for is between characters and between NPCs, because I can guarantee you that when a lot of people think about their best roleplay moments, it's moments they've had, with NPCs or with other party members. We take home character relationships, and those are very... how do I want to say this? Those can be just as sincere and genuine and as fulfilling as our day-to-day friendships, if they're given the time to develop. So if you'll notice, I have those 2 adventures out, and then I have one in an upcoming Studio Ghibli inspired anthology called Eyes Unclouded. And I was sitting back the other day and I was realizing in all 3 adventures, I have a section that basically just goes, go. Role play, go information gather, go bond with these NPCs. And then in every single adventure, what happens with those NPCs changes based on what you do. So it could very drastically change depending on the relationships that you develop with them. I like the idea that the PCs should have the ability to influence the world around them, but not just in what they can defeat or what they can, set on fire. I like the idea that they can change people, and that by changing people and by inspiring or unseating people, even, you can change the world. I love that idea.
So I guess my follow-on question for that then is just like, it's it is hard to balance essentially the branching paths of like an adventure before it gets sort of unyieldy, and then you have like seven subsections. Like, well, if this happens and this person's still alive, but this person has this, like, how do you sort of navigate that to sort of still have like almost like a, you provide enough to give that free range, but then.
Yeah, I try to keep it a little vague, first of all, and I try to trust a lot to the DM, which is, I will never claim that my adventures are easy to run, because I am giving a lot to the DM. I'm saying, let's see, in my upcoming one, I basically had to do that exact thing where it was like, there's this very pivotal moment where this NPC is supposed to do something, but there's a very real chance that 1 out of 100 parties could convince them not to. And so I was like, okay, well, here's your backup plan. But I think the more vague you keep it and focus on pivotal moments. So I'll say, adjust this scene depending on their relationship with the NPC, or maybe this NPC will join them if they feel really good about them. I like to focus on pivotal moments and really vague suggestions and leave a lot of that in the DM's hands. Like, I trust you, do your thing.
Yeah, no, I think that kind of, because I suppose like a natural way of sort of bringing branching paths together is to have focus points where everything sort of condenses down. And I think, what is it? So the way that I sort of tackle encounter design is very much the idea of like, okay, what makes this encounter unique or different? And sometimes that is like just the sort of setting, or sometimes that is just the underlying like mechanisms of like this. Most like, I don't know, I was writing like an encounter later today about a pirate ship that just gets dropped in a field somewhere. Which is that in itself is something new, and I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like how do you have a conversation with a bunch of pirates who were like 5 minutes ago in the ocean, and now that and sort of navigate. So that's no, but it's interesting about the naturally putting trust in the DM. I think when you begin to write adventures, I think there is the balance of how much information do you need to how much can you leave vague.
Yes.
and yeah, it's a tough one to balance, because I think in sometimes when you write an adventure, you kind of almost have like a prescriptive nature of like, essentially you're writing a novel that players can play through sometimes, and you sometimes just need to lean back and be like, okay, no, we need to give agency, we need to let the players sort of go through and things.
Yeah.
So one thing I do, so before we kind of begin to talk about your sort of creative process, and where your ideas come from, I do 100% definitely want to touch on the Adventurous domestic handbook, just because I think it's a charming product, but do you mind sort of just explaining kind of what it is, like?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the Adventurous domestic handbook is a lot of things. It's a little hard to condense, forgive me. It's the ways which you can bring family, romantic, and business and homesteading to your table. So it's a lot of family ideas and mechanics, a lot of romance, but there's also business rules, right? So we have guidelines on how to kind of smoothly have your PC set up a business, or here's how much having a house costs and upgrading it if you want to really get into that, because you've got people who, they've played Stardew Valley. Yeah. they like building a farm. And then we've got rules on apprenticing. So if you want to take on an apprentice from your family or from an NPC you've met, we've got rules for that now. We've got romanceable NPCs. So you can see sort of a variety of, like, I almost expect people not to read that section and be like, ooh, I'm going to drop that NPC exactly in my home game. And they might, and I would be thrilled. Like, if you romance Disra, I want you to tell me, okay? I have to know.
You want to like at you on Twitter immediately.
Yes, tell me. But I think what it gives is a really wide variety of ways that you can make these romanceable NPCs engaging and interesting. They all have quests, they all have desires, they all have things that they'll say yes and no to. They all have like, this is my hard line, and I'm not going to get into a relationship if this is what you do. But they also all have things they like. And so I think it's an inspiring section where, you know, you can sort of take those ideas and start building more fleshed out NPCs for your table. And then we have a whole section on, here are ways to use family members in ways that aren't just kidnap them and use them as hostages, because that's I think why players keep killing off their families, is because they don't want the DM to be like, haha, I kidnapped your family.
I think that's a funny thing, because I think like across a lot of the tables that I played at, and I must admit the idea of a character who just has a family somewhere feels almost like uncommon. It's always like no one's just like, oh yeah, no, I you know, this is my day job. I take weekends off. I'm back home, like with my family. This is like I've got to be home soon, because you know.
So we've got rules for like whether you want to take them with you in your caravan or whether you want to just, you know, communicate with them on the regular. Because I know I had a DM who, so my first character, I didn't kill my parents. She just ran away from home. And when my character went home, my DM set up a really interesting moment with her father, where it was like, he's definitely doing some really shady things. How do you feel about this? And that really opened my eyes to what D&D could be with family members. It was like my character got to have these feelings and work through this relationship with her father and basically say, you need to earn back the right to be my father at this point. And the DM was like all in on doing that. He's like, no, yeah, I let you down, and I will make sure that I never hurt you like this again. And that's a memorable moment. And if I can help people have those moments, you know, that's exactly why I'm here. That's what the Adventurous Domestic Handbook is how do we bring more of that home goodness to your table if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's all sort of optional content, and so you mentioned that. So this was originally, was it Lydia's idea,
yes.
And you came to both write and edit on the project. Just so, which parts did you sort of take the helm on writing?
Oh gosh, okay. So I made a lot of the NPCs. I wrote several of the subclasses. My mind is going completely blank. What else did I write?
It's exactly
when you I do?
Once you get involved in like collaborations, it's all sort of out the window. Just
I know, and because I was the editor, I'm like, no, what do you mean? All of it was mine. No, I wrote a lot of the beginning information on family, and I added to the section on romance. So a lot of the family stuff was mine, because I felt really passionately about that. Like, okay, how can we use family members in more engaging ways? And then Sierra and Kayla both really really dug down into the business and the homesteading, which is good because I don't have a head for numbers. Even a little. I went, oh, that's great, you do that.
I like that. I mean, that's one of the benefits of group projects, is the fact that there's people who just love numbers, and you're just like, this is a good pairing. I'm glad you exist.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
But okay, no, interesting. And then I guess being both a writer and an editor on a project, is that sometimes not a conflict of interest?
It is. Okay, it is, because your editor brain, when you're going onto a project, right? Your editor brain is like, all right, I know you love these words, but we have to cut them. Yeah. I'm so sorry. But then it's the writer brain is completely different when an editor comes to me and goes, Sadie, I'm so sorry. I know you're passionate about these words, but I have to cut them. I'm like, no, you can't. Please.
So I take it. So
that's my heart.
Is it quite literally like that? So when you approach a product, either you are either in like your writer mind or like your editor mind, and you kind of have to almost separate those roles and be able to.
You know what? It's very strange, and I think they inform each other. But it's very different. It's two separate mindsets. When I'm writing, I'm going, what's the feeling and the theme and the, how do I make this impact? I like to say, how do I make something punch?
Yeah.
You'll hear me talk about that. If you ever work with me, if I ever edit for you, or if you ever write with me, you'll hear me ask, how do we make this punch?
Yeah.
And then the writer brain has to come in and go, okay, I see all of that passion and beauty. Great job. Now we need to organize it into something that's more coherent and easy to parse. And so it's it's the writer mind is really excitable and passionate and ready and heavy hitting, and then the editor brain is very organized. It's very let's
I don't know why, but like my mind goes to like when I do like well, almost like, you know, when you do sort of like self-editing parts before it goes off to the editor and stuff like that. My writer mind is almost like a costume party, and then the editor side is very much like a suit and tie. Yes. but they somehow they're both in the same office space. It's you know, they have a decent working relationship. But you know,
I do think that being a writer alongside being an editor makes me a better collaborative partner, because I'm a really big proponent of, if you're working with an editor and they go, I want to snip that section, I don't think it works, and you go back, I am a big proponent of, you can go back to your editor. Mm-hmm. And I have done this before, and I've worked with an editor before. You can go back to them and you can say, I really like this section. This is what I want it to achieve. Is there another way we can do this? And so I think having that writer's mind sympathy of, no, I get it. I get your passion. I get what you're saying. I know that you really want to convey something here. So cool, let's work together. We'll use my editing superpowers and your writing passion, and we'll find a better way to do this. And so it is a bit of a conflict of interest, but I think that they can make each other stronger. They can sort of open a dialogue of, what does the writer want to accomplish, and how does the editor best suggest making that happen?
Yeah, and actually, was it to almost add on to that is like, as I did say, one of the messages of the podcast that I often drum home about is get yourself an editor. But I think as well is to paint it in the light that an editor doesn't just come in, go through the document, then leave. It should be, like, again, the editor is essentially a collaborator, and the product can only improve from ongoing conversations about why they're doing things. Obviously, there's moments where they take out all the cans, and that one you don't really have a leg to stand on. You have to be like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, that one slipped through. But there's
your passive voice. I'm gonna kill it.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm just so passive in life.
Misplaced modifiers. I'm coming for them.
So one last question then is: do you have any particularly editing pet peeves?
Oh geez, let me think. Editing pet peeves. You know what? Actually, I do. It is sentences that don't vary, and that's just because that is so much more work on me to introduce flow. Like, if you want, and this is not a knock on any writer, I understand that that getting flow in your brain is sort of you have to work on it. But if you had me a paragraph and it says something like, she went to the store and bought some bread, she then went home in her blue car, she turned on the TV, that the ability to develop flow is one of the best things you can do for your editor, because I can go in and I can move your misplaced modifiers, I can do a lot of things. But if you hand me a sentence, if you hand me a paragraph and it has no flow, I have to sit back and go, okay, it's time to do some heavy lifting. Let's reflow this. And there's a lot of rewriting that goes into that. And that's maybe more than I think some editors would do, but that's me wanting to bring out the best of your product, because readers will notice stilted sentences. And so it's, I think some editors would just proofread it and call it a day and go, well, that's their voice, but I don't want to do that. I want to bring out your best voice if possible. So vary your sentences, vary their length, vary their format, make it flow. Read it out loud. That's my big advice, is read it out loud. And if you are boring yourself out of your mind, or if it sounds stilted, you probably need to throw some variety in there.
Actually, what was it? So funny enough, when I was working on a project with Justice, he told me that often he does, like, before most projects and stuff, he runs his entire book through a text-to-speak.
Oh, that's clever.
And then you listen to it back. And then obviously, as if a robot voice, makes it sound weird, or that was how he knew when to sort of fix certain things. And it's slightly tedious. But as someone who's done a fair bit of transcribing, it's the same sort of process of just listening, and then you trying to like pay attention to things that just don't sound quite right.
Yeah. That's really clever, Justice.
Yeah,
that.
he's a smart, handsome man.
Smart, handsome man. Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on swiftly. Segue.
You don't want to keep talking about handsome Justice.
Again, it would be the rest of the podcast otherwise.
We have to move on at some point.
Yeah, we have to, eventually. But no, so to bring it back onto you then, and the to engage with the writer side of your brain then.
Less handsome Sadie.
Yeah. Again, that's the other half of the podcast gone. What would you say is your sort of like creative process then? So like aside from when working for the adventure the adventure workshop, obviously
the RPG writers workshop.
RPG writing workshop, but with the other products since then, where sort of have your ideas come from?
That's a good question. My creative process tends to be, I'm a very big thematics person, and I'm a big feelings person. How does something make you feel? The punch. And so I tend to create one pivotal, okay, what's the hook first? And so with Darkness from the Stars, the hook was, there is a mystery surrounding this mystical dragon, and then I built it from there. With Deathless Skies of Sire, it was airship Leviathan fight, and then it all built from there. And with my Ghibli product, it's like, wizard court politics intrigue. So I tend to take one very intriguing idea and then sprout that and then grow around it, because I think that people will feel that impact that you want if you start there.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so does that almost kind of bleed into your creative process then? So do you typically start with those sections and then work it?
So yeah, like I tend to almost maze around it, I guess. Yeah. I tend to work backwards. So I'll go, okay, we need to get to this airship Leviathan fight. What's the hook for that? Where do we see the setting? Okay, well, how do we get there? Okay, well, how do the adventurers get there? With the mystical dragon encounter, it was very much I want to get here. What are the processes? Yeah. And so my creative process is generally sit down. I think my creative process is to sit down and figure out 3 beats first around which to create things. So with Deathless Skies of Sire, it's sort of you end with the Leviathan fight, right? Your first beat is the first time you enter the Mournland and you realize exactly what you're dealing with. This and that first encounter sort of lays the world building seeds of your enemy. Mm-hmm. Everything up to that is just intro. But once you start to get the hints of who your enemy is, that's the first beat. Your second beat is the tower fight. And that's where your enemy comes in. And so I go, okay, first encounter, second encounter, climax. And then everything I build is from there. Okay, well, we've introduced our villain, and now he appears. What else can we lay between these two to really build up to his appearance? Mm-hmm. All right, now we have these two. How do we get from this encounter to this encounter and sort of build up to it? And that's, I think, a really great process to think about. Like, I love the idea of basically setting 3 stakes and then going, how do we make sure that by the time we get from A to B, we are ready for B's maximum impact? Okay, Now how do we get from B to C? What have we laid in between B and C to make C that much more impactful? Make it punch!
It all comes back. You're gonna punch him around. No, I must admit. So it makes. Sorry, let me get my words right. It's like the idea of having like 3 set pillars, or like a 3-part story structure, or was it? I've heard of like the 5x5 rule, which is, so it's like, I think it's like the that any core like story thing should take like five. Sorry. Any important quest should be split into 5 parts, and obviously you kind of have like the introduction and the end. I'm gonna do some live googling.
Pull it up. I want to know.
5 D&D. that was that was a bad Google. No, I can't remember where I think. Okay, I'm drawing up. Wait, 1 second.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
Yeah, no, it's more that I'm always aware that the listeners have to listen to me faff about with Google. I will find that at a slightly later date. But either way, it was generally the idea that and they used like real world examples of like looking at Lord of the Rings about how like each sort of like middle beat and stuff like that can be sort of broken down into like five main story chunks. And was it literally just like a gut feeling to have like these like for the adventure to have like these three main beats, or?
I graduated with a degree in English, a minor in editing, and I have been writing since I was a child. And so a lot of that a mixture of education. I took a lot of creative writing classes. I took a lot of creative editing classes. I learned a lot about story structure, and a lot of it is gut feeling. At the same time, I mean, I have distinct memories of sitting in middle school using my free period not to do my homework, but like intently writing Harry Potter fan fiction. My senses were honed in a lifetime of very cringy creative writing. But then I went to school and you start to understand how to break things down and how the world works. And like, if you're watching a movie, eventually, I think after creating long enough, you start to sort of get a sense of like, oh, these are their beats. Mm-hmm. Or, if you're reading a book, like, oh, those are your beats. Yeah. And so you sort of get a sense for that rise, fall, mm-hmm. rise. But I definitely did also learn a lot about that structure in my English classes. And if you were to ask me about it, I probably couldn't tell you. There's a circle, and it's like
a hero's journey.
The threshold, yeah. You have to breach the threshold and send them on their journey. I don't remember that. So, but I do know that in general, you want, like, even if you don't abide by 3 beats, what you sort of want to do is draw your characters into the mystery in very pivotal moments. And you can have as many of those moments as you want, I think. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not as many, but you want to let them free range, and then you want to bring them back, and then you want to let them roam and kind of discover some hints on their own, and then you want to bring them back, and then you want to let them go and dig their fingers into it, and then you want to bring them back. You want to punch them in the face with that ending and just go, bam, this is what we were building up to the entire time. I think that makes really impactful storytelling, is to seed it throughout the adventure, mm-hmm. and to kind of make sure that it follows an escalating line upward. There's a lot that goes into story creation that you learn in classes, like things like establishing the stakes. I can't tell you how many times I'm editing something and I go back to the author and I go, the stakes aren't high enough. Mm-hmm. You need something to establish what the stakes are, or the party's not going to want to do this. Keeping them engaged, driving them forward, keeping a sort of goal in the distance. A lot of that you learn on instinct just by watching movies. What are the stakes? Why are they doing what they're doing? And then a lot of it you learn the terminology when you sit down in English class and they go, all right, here's the hero's journey. This is the instigating event. You go, oh, that's what that's called. I guess we do have to have Frodo leave the Shire, don't we?
He doesn't have to, but it's probably a little bit less engaging if he just spends the first half of the film sat around.
Yeah, I guess I'll go.
Yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense, and it's always interesting to speak with other creators and talk about the sort of the background that they come from. So it makes a lot of sense of like looking at a lot of literature, how it kind of feeds into making engaging sort of adventures. And one thing I did find is, so a 5x5 adventure method. I found the page that I was on about. Basically, it is explained how you can build a multi-threaded campaign featuring 5 interrelated plot points by planning your campaign on a 5x5 grid. So you have
interesting.
So essentially, the plot being broken up into 5 full adventures, and then you have each sort of like within each grid, each adventure is broken up into 5 parts, and that's how so one being maybe like find like a legendary sword. So in one sort of chunk here, as I said, you can have 1 or 2 major quests and 3 to 4 minor quests within like a 5x5, and then that's how you naturally
that's interesting.
And it's also the same rule by like the 5-room dungeon. So again, all you really need in a dungeon is 5 vastly different rooms.
Okay.
As
I'll have to look that up later. I'm planning my next arc, so
yeah, I will send the link, and I'll make sure it's in the description of this podcast, so I don't leave the people hanging.
Look it up yourself.
Yeah. So going on from there, then. So do you have a particular favorite part of your writing process, or?
Yes, I like the initial concepting phase, and I like just doing the bulk writing. Those are my 2. I have a writing partner named Amber, and that stage where we're just shooting ideas back and forth and concepting, I love that because that captures that energy. And then I'm very much I'm able to get words on the page, and then those words inspire me to get more words on the page. And so sitting down and doing that bulk writing is always a thrill for me when I see all those threads in my head just sort of finally getting woven into a picture, a tapestry that I can show people now.
So in the sort of original concept, say how form, like, does it take like a skeleton of a document, or is it still very free flowing? Is it still very much like a bunch of like separate Word documents that eventually all again sewn together in the tapestry at the end, or is it a singular?
We're trying to be more organized this time. We've got Google Docs. We have a master sheet for our current bestiary where we're collecting ideas. So we're trying to be more organized now. I will not lie. A lot of my first organization was not great. When you take the RPG Writers Workshop, it's like make a Pinterest board and make a, what is it called, a mind map, and then create an outline. And I was like, I am not doing that. It's all in my head. I'm fine. And then I sat down and I started writing. I don't recommend that.
I mean, like, again, here's the thing when it comes to like writing and stuff like that, is that like there is no right way to do it and stuff like that. It is a case of like whatever helps you get those concepts on page. And so you mentioned as well. So so Amber joined you on the RPG Writer Workshop right at the start.
Yeah.
And then you kind of sort of continued sort of almost co-writing adventures kind of throughout. How do you find the sort of collaborative writing process of like bouncing ideas off someone, or?
I find it very helpful if you have the right person, because first of all, just so everyone knows, Amber is brilliant, and she's a little quiet, but you absolutely want her on your projects. She's brilliant, but she's the numbers person. So when you read Deathless Skies of Sire, and you're like, wow, this is a really cool story woven through where all these like lore details are built in. That's me. Mm-hmm. When you get to the end and there's an epic Leviathan fight, and there's the Leviathan and its limbs and the airship and the tactics and all of the numbers, that's Amber. I can basically just go, hey, Amber, what's the coolest way to do this combat? And she'll go, I got you.
Yeah.
So I think that if you can find a writing partner who your personality meshes well with, but your creative processes complement rather than mesh. Mm-hmm. Well, no, mesh is still a good word. Yeah. But your writing processes.
It's kind of like, was it you cover for each other's weaknesses?
Yes, exactly. I find that the ideal writing setting, because I'm not going to pretend that I don't have creative weaknesses. And so that's why we collaborate in the Creators Lounge, is because we know we have weak spots. I can't lay out to save my life. But we bring in people who, kind of fill in those blank spots for us. I'm a very collaborative person, just in general. So I will always find it really good and really valuable. But that also kind of leads into like my least favorite part of the thing as well.
Why? Do my job for me. No, take it away, please.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I like collaboration But my least favorite part of any project is always the part where you start going out and getting feedback and getting eyes on it and getting edits. And it's not for the reason you think. I don't mind being edited. I am an editor. I know it needs to happen.
Yeah.
But that feedback stage where you're getting everyone's feedback and like you're starting to get muddled and you start to lose that initial passion because you're bogged down on the details, that's really hard for me. Like when we go to, like, let's just take Deathless Skies of Sire. Amber and I did that together. And when we had to kind of bridge a couple of logical gaps and, we were getting people's feedback and they were like, that transition doesn't make sense. That was really hard for me because it's like we lose that big feeling of, yeah, cool, airship, Leviathan, fight. Yeah. And now it's like, oh my gosh, what do you mean that there's a chance that this person would do something? What?
Yeah, I kind of 100% agree, because normally when you're at that stage of getting feedback, the document's kind of done. Like yeah. It's a complete thing, and it is that sort of thing of like refining the edges. But and sometimes when you get differing feedback, and I guess as well, was it a lot of people when they read Adventures, I do that. I come at it from the way that I DM. And there's again no wrong way to play D&D. There's no wrong way to DM, and it's hard to, I guess, like navigate a product to be perfect for everyone.
Yeah, and I think at some point we sort of, in the feedback stages, we have to accept that. We've had people where we've sent it out to them, they've come back and they've had feedback that works exactly for their tables, and we go, that's not what we're going for. I guess this isn't for your table. I'm sorry. We're doing one of our challenges right now is we're doing a revamp of the deck of many things, and we want it to be very role play driven, because a lot of people are using milestone leveling these days, which renders a ton of the deck of many things completely useless. Yeah. And a lot of it is very random chaos. So we go, okay, well, how do we introduce role play moments? And we've sort of had to come to terms with the fact that at some point we're not going to be able to please everybody. We're going, like, some DMs will want more specifics, some just want the vagueness and then they'll go with it. Some people will love these big ideas, some people won't. And at some point you just go, all right, we will release our vision of this role play driven of deck of many things, and we will hope for the best. And I love the feedback stage for refining my products. I just don't want to I try not to get bogged down in it. I try not to, because I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. I want my product to be the best it can be. And so if you let me fixate on those details, it will never get published. Yeah. And so if I can push through that stage, refine what needs to be refined, but not fixate and stress, then my product will be better for that feedback stage. It's just a matter of not going like,
I think one of the best things I ever did when it came to like going through the play testing or the editing phase was kind of accept the fact that no adventure will survive playing at a table. In that like it's in an ideal situation they will play the adventure from start to finish as I've envisioned it, as the grand master of this world. But realistically, people are going to take your adventure, and again, they're probably already running homebrew campaigns, so they're going to take what they can, and immediately they take about, let's say, 80% to then try and cram it into their world. And as long as the people at the table are having fun, I could go in extreme detail about where the band of goblins came from, or I could just say they're just there. They've always been there.
That's where they've been.
The important part is the fact that the goblins have bags of other goblins that they throw at each other. That's the punch. That's
the punch. That's a good punch.
Yeah. I think it was actually. So speaking of goblins, my favorite thing I ever did is I had a low level party against a giant, and the giant just had a bag of goblins, and that's what the giant would just throw them, and anytime the giant missed, the goblin was just splat on the ground. It was
No.
it was so much fun.
Oh, that's chaotic. I love that.
Yeah. Sorry, I just me and goblins, we go way back.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, you would get along with a Kai.
Yes.
I'm sure you've seen Death by Goblins.
Oh no, was it? Yeah, funny enough, I was actually looking again earlier today.
Yeah.
But no, so okay, so again, to make the most of this opportunity of having both a writer and an editor, the favorite and least favorite part, do they slightly differ for when you're editing a project?
Oh, good question. Favorite and least favorite part of editing. Let's see. That's a great. I've never been asked that. So awesome. I think.
As it was, I think I've been doing for this like for 20, 25, 26 episodes now. I think I'm getting all right at it. I think I'm.
Yeah. No, you did good. My least favorite part, there's always that stress in working with a new writer of not knowing their process, them not knowing my process. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, this is going to sound so stupid, but there's a lot of anxiety that goes into editing for a new author. Like, are they going to take, are they not going to like what I've done? Are they going to feel like I'm taking their baby away from them? Yeah. Are they going to kick up a fuss about my edits? Mm-hmm. So my least favorite part is going through the adventure for the first time, digging in, doing my thing, and waiting for their response, because that petrifies me. I'll go do like an anxiety lap around my house. Like I'll just kind of.
No, I think that kind of makes a lot of sense. I think I'm kind of the same way when it's the same thing when I'm sending my work off to an editor for the first time. It's the case of like do
the anxiety lap.
Yeah, I think everybody involved in either side of the project are having, but it is a case of like I imagine like as an editor coming in stuff like that, especially doing your own stuff, how sometimes it can be a passion project, and you don't want like again to get a project back covered in red lines of like what are you even trying to say here, or whatever it is.
I'll always tell people a lot. I'll be like, when I work with a new writer, I'll say, look, I'll warn them. I'll go, I'm gonna go in with a heavy hand, potentially, depending on the writing. Mm-hmm. But if you don't like an edit, or you want to ask me about it, or you want to ask me why, or you want a different solution, mm-hmm. please come talk to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm open to talking to. I try to, before I edit anything, I try to do an initial read through and go, what are they going for? Mm-hmm. How does this all fit together? And then I go in and edit. My favorite part of editing any project is it really bad to say when a writer goes, oh, that's a much better way to do that? No.
But here's the thing, I keep saying, hire an editor, they make the product better, and that's just further evidence of that, because again, it's when you write a sentence and stuff like it is you just getting out there, and you can try and like put as much prose as you want into that sentence to make it pretty. If an editor can almost see through the fluff and just mm-hmm. see the skeleton and be like, okay, well, this leg should be here.
Yeah, we need to take that leg. Yeah, you've got it out of the rib cage. Yeah.
I see what you're going for, but we really need to pull that out.
I like working with writers. I like the initial discussion stage, and I like the stage after they've had the chance to look at the edits. I love the discussion stages, because I like it when a writer brings their passion to me and goes, this is what I'm looking for, okay, yeah, I see what you did with your edits. I was thinking we could also do this, or I was thinking maybe we do this instead. I love those discussion phrases, because they let me in on the writer's mind, and they let me know what they want. And a lot of times writers have ideas that I would never even think of. I remember going to a writer and just being like, I don't think this section is working for me. This is what my idea is. And writer, it immediately clicked in their brain. They went, oh, well, I could do this. And I went, no, that's better. Do that. Yeah. Do that. That's perfect. There's just something really lovely about collaborative creating. And so I'm never afraid to talk to a writer mm-hmm. and just say, okay, let's rearrange the skeleton. It's not working.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with the arm? Should we put a robot arm on it?
Yeah, I think was it as well to latch onto that is like often going through like the comments on the side of the document. Sometimes like again, the editor's like, oh, I would probably reword it like this, and the amount of times where I've just been like, yeah, I'm just gonna copy. I'm gonna paste.
Copy, paste. That's great.
that's great, and stuff. And yeah, it avoids the the idea of like it's what again it moves away from it being a solo project to it being a collaborative work. In at least for like solo writing adventures, it's different when it's already a collaborative piece going in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm so glad to actually like I again as an adventure writer I do like talking to editors on the podcast and more generally. It's always, I find it always super insightful. And yeah, there's been a good chat. And I guess to kind of round off your writing experience, then also to a part as well your editing experience. Is there anything you kind of wish you'd learned earlier?
Let's see. For me, it's definitely I need to schedule better. I wish I had learned that better earlier. Please pace yourself. You give everyone better work when you're not cramming yourself into every project under the sun. But also, I think going back to just everything we've been talking about, I wish that I knew earlier, and I wish that other people knew that collaborative creating is a conversation. And I wish that people knew that when I edit something, they can come to me. Or I wish that I knew, when someone went back and edited my adventure, I wish I had sort of had the guts to go and talk to them about it. I think that projects are better when we're all communicating with each other and when we're all not afraid to go, I don't really love that. My work has can I remember what it is right now? I might need to do my own Googling. My work so I work for a book publisher, and my boss lately has been really into this phrase called, let's scramble it. What is that? I got to go see if I can remember what that means.
Why should it was it? So while you're getting that, I'll fill time slightly by saying that no, I 100% agree. Funny enough, that I've noticed that over the course of the products that I've kind of been pushing out there, I think I'm learning of like how I could have, again in reflection, how I could have better navigated a collaborative project by not necessarily holding on to the adventure with such tight claws. Like again, I'm involved in a project right now where it's rather than just have a myself and then just get an editor towards the end, it's myself and like cutting up parts of an adventure to send off to other writers. And that conversation about like how each part sort of flows together, rather than just me staring at a skeleton of just a skeleton in general of a document. I've learned a lot, and I think again it can only improve the things, and that's why I'm giddy to my products of the future to kind of come out soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your products now. They sound good.
Yeah, thank you. You found the phrase?
I did. Okay, so it's not scramble; it's scamper. Sorry.
Okay.
Scamper. So my boss has a phrase, and it's, how can we create and recreate awesome books, products, designs? And she goes, we can scamper it. Scamper stands for substitute, combine, adapt, magnify, modify, put to other uses, eliminate, rearrange, and reverse. So she goes, and so her philosophy is, if you have an idea and it's not quite right, there are so many times when I've gone to our acquisitions meeting and I've pitched an idea and we go, that's not right for our accounts, or that's, I don't really see how that's working for your targeted thing. We try really hard not to throw anything out. And this is the philosophy I take to everyone I work with. And I encourage people to find an editor who does sort of the same thing, who doesn't go, no, we're just gonna, that's trash, huck it out. You want someone who's willing to converse with you. Because, you can say, all right, what can we substitute? What can we combine? Like, can we Can we blend or create an assortment? Can we adapt? Can we magnify? Big ideas are fun. So what can we exaggerate? What can we increase the frequency of? Can we go for a dramatic extreme? What can we modify? Is there just something that needs to be pivoted a little? Can this be put to other uses? If you have an idea and it's not working in the context you have it in, is there a different context that you can give it? Can you put it to a different use? Can you eliminate something? Can you rearrange something? Can you just, there are a lot of time. I think in Steve's document that I just edited, I went to him and I was like, I'm going to vastly just change the order of several of your sections. And he went, okay.
No, I mean, I would say on a surface level, that's a powerful acronym. That's a doozy.
Yeah. And then reverse. I remember on Steve's project as well, he had 2 characters written 2 different ways. And I went to him and I went, these are a little stereotypical for one was a male, one was a female. And I went, can I just pivot these 2? Like, can we make the guy the one who's totally image obsessed and like super vain? And can we make the girl the one who's like totally willing to push you down a flight of stairs?
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, that's really good. So I am firmly of the belief that there is nothing that needs to be immediately thrown out. So, when you're collaborating with someone, scamper it.
I have to say, another thing that I've been like with a lot of products on DMsGuild at least. I mean, we're not really working to a strict page count. So I mean, we have that freedom to to play around. The only time is, I suppose, when it comes to layout, where sometimes you get those pesky stray sentences.
Widows and orphans.
Yeah, but no, that's that again. So that's further evidence of like obviously taking what you do in like your day-to-day life and just making it 100% applicable to editing when it comes to like on the. I feel like I need like Scamper on like an A3 poster.
Make it big.
Yeah, I need it big and just in front of my desk. I think probably. No,
it's really good for when you're in a rut, like when you're just like, we'll be sitting there and, we'll be like, this cookbook idea doesn't work for this many reasons. And my boss will go, then scamper it. And then you just immediately see people's gears turning. They're like, okay. Yeah.
Because it almost feels like, again, it's almost like a flow chart because you have like so many different steps that you could do that chances are like 1 or 2 of them is going to be a solution.
Yeah. Magnify is one of my favorites because I've told you I focus on big ideas, and so if I go, all right, this adventure isn't working for me the way that it is, what can we magnify? Right? I love that. I love substitution. There are a lot of things. Combining. You know that phrase, kill your darlings?
Yep.
I'm sure you do. I find that one of my favorite things to do is not to necessarily kill the darling, but to combine the darling. So if you have
eldritch abomination.
So if you have 2 NPCs and you go, you don't need both of these. They're taking up too much space and you don't need both of them. My brain immediately goes, well, why can't one NPC do both jobs?
Yeah.
I love to combine the darlings.
Yeah, it kind of ends up with like slightly more multifaceted characters. To serve more than one purpose. It's not like, oh, that's the quest giver, and let's go to the tavern owner. It's like
exactly, or like and there's so many different fun combinations you can make with that. Like, you have. I can't think of an idea off the top of my head, actually, but
no. In fact, like, was it you've been so insightful in giving out advice. I think again at this point you're giving too much.
Brilliant.
Yeah. If people haven't already hired you by the end of this, like again, I don't know what else we could do. But no, honestly, no. That kind of like again, it makes a lot of sense. It's like everything. And I'm trying to find a more natural way to segue into looking to the future. So I'm just gonna use that.
Unnaturally segue. Yeah. You're just gonna pull out a skill.
I don't have good sentence flow.
That's why you have me.
Yeah, no. Like I need you like in ear for like future podcasts.
I'll be the
yeah. But no. So I guess you know what, I'm gonna shake the order up just a little bit.
Okay, all right.
Keeping it within the DMs Guild community, then you mentioned that obviously you work alongside Amber in a lot of products, and you've been involved in sort of collaborations. But is there anyone or any multiple people in the DMs Guild that currently inspires you?
So you sent me this question, and this one has been hard for me because I don't want to sit here for 5 minutes and name every name of everyone I've ever loved. But so I'm very currently inspired, first of all, by Laura Herzbrunner, because she is the best example I have of how you can use what you have to lift others up with you. I would not be where I was without Laura, her constant encouragement, her constant support, her constant, hey guys, look at Sadie, look at this cool thing that she's done. And that has totally taught me, you know, as people start to learn my name, how can I share some of my spotlight with people who are having a hard time getting noticed? Because I would not be where I am if not for her. And just the people who I see out there fighting the good fight, giving people support. There's Jess, Miss Jess on Twitter. Yep. Just such a positive, but also fiery person in our community. Absolutely. These are two people that I respect so much for their ability to just kick down the door and get going.
I think 100%. Like again, just seeing the way they seeing the way they respond to things on social media and stuff like that, is they're people you want in your corner. And
exactly.
They're again, it's their passion in their products and in just about anything that they're passionate about is it's clear, and I think it's kind of what makes them stand out as inspirational people.
Exactly. And I mean, you could say the same. There's Anna Gregerson, there's Eleanor, there's you, there's Adam, there's so many people, like Anthony of Justice have both been very, very supportive and just
handsome
Justice. He's been so encouraging. And so handsome. Ashton, like there are just so many people in the Creators Lounge who are there for you and encouraging. And so, I think the Creators Lounge is just the best place to be because the funny thing that I love about the Creators Lounge is I think that they are the epitome of the scamper. I think they're the personification, because so many times people have gone in there and said, well, someone's already done my idea, or I don't really see how I could do this to the power that someone else already has, or I just don't see how I can make this work. And everyone in there goes, all right, let's work on it.
Yeah.
What do you need? What questions can I answer? What can I what can we change? What new facet can we give your product? What advice can we give you? The ability that this community has to go, no, don't drop that idea. Let's scamper it. I think that is such an amazing thing. So thank you to everyone out there who is out there encouraging new creators to chase their ideas and to not be afraid of that initial rut.
Yeah. And I think, to sort of almost add on to it is from the Discord to Twitter alone, the speed in which like collaborations start out of nowhere, from like throwaway tweets that you think are a joke to just someone saying and people just, again, it next thing you know, there's a team and there's a new Discord where like people are like working on this project. So no, there's no again, and things with like the RPG Writers Workshop, there really is no excuse to not get involved if you're sitting on the edge of things looking in. It's a doozy of a community.
Yes. Get Ashley Warren in your corner. She is so encouraging. She holds monthly challenges, and through every challenge she's like, what can we do to help you? What can we do to inspire you? What can we do to get you back on the horse? She is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I must admit, so that's the thing. I think it's the classic case of like, it's I struggle to point to people like anywhere other than the RPG Writer Workshop for like trying to get started, because I mean it is the complete package, and the looking at like, again, I've spoken to like a number of people who've come up through that now, and had varying like levels of success on the DMsGuild. So it just goes to show that it's a curriculum that is teaching people for success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, damn. Nice. So no, I've got again. Those questions always leave me with the warm fuzzies. So to bring
you inspire me.
Shucks, you're gonna. If I didn't have a beard, I would be blushing. But to bring it back around to you, then you kind of touched on this with the Studio Ghibli stuff. But I'm going to kind of merge the questions together in that. Is there anything that you're currently working on at the moment? And do you kind of have like a dream project that's kind of off in the horizon?
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm currently working on a lot of things. I told my friend, I feel like I'm treadmilling right now, I'm just running, and eventually these projects will get published. But so I have that role-play driven deck of many things. Mm-hmm. I have the Studio Ghibli project that is Eyes Unclouded, that should be coming out sometime either late July or sometime in August. So I'm really excited for that one. We've got a really good team. Amber and I are working on a bestiary, a themed bestiary, where we are trying to give a lot of lore behind the monsters and thus multiple ways you can sort of tackle them. Because I think it's really interesting to say, well, yeah, you can fight this creature, but what if you can also dig into its story and maybe defeat it or save it another way? So that's really exciting. We have vague ideas for a supplement that deals with spell casting, but that is very early ground. So those are sort of my three biggest projects right now. I want to get back into another Eberron adventure at some point. I'm waiting for that lightning bolt idea. I'm waiting for my big punch to get in there. But those are the three big ones. And then I'm on this was announced. I can say it. I'm working on a collaboration with Anthony Justice, MTB, Laura Gordon, Marco. I'm not going to say what it is. You'll have to wonder.
But it's been announced in some capacity.
Oh, Celeste. Celeste also just joined us. Celeste Conowitch.
That again, every sort of like Anthony and Justice, that they are getting some star-studded teams together with, was it Elminster's Guide to Candlekeep?
Yeah. If you liked Elminster's, you're gonna like what we're cooking.
Ooh, oh, damn. Yeah. So, but then no, amazing. And then so I take it, so the quote unquote dream project then is just keep that treadmill going.
Right. Okay, the dream project. You did ask me that. I actually, I have a couple of ideas. None of them are cemented, but I would like to either. So a campaign setting is kind of a distant dream, like being able to say, here's a world, go play in it. Yep. I have a very distant dream eventually of kind of doing a sort of across Eberron type deal where I can concept an idea, bring together a stellar team, and we do a series of themed publications. I think that would be so fun to lead, so fun to bring people's ideas in on. And I'm just sort of waiting for the perfect idea of, okay, well, what would I actually lead? But that just sounds so inspiring to me to be able to get minds together and start cooking something like that.
And it kind of touches on the idea of bringing people in and bringing everyone up together. I mean, that a series of adventures is a great way to have established creators and new newcomers engage in like a huge project, which can again, the across Eberron thing is baffling.
I know. Across Eberron is amazing. Or what's it called?
Amaroon's.
Yes.
That
is such a cool project as well. I know that the people who've worked on that have really enjoyed it.
Yeah. As one of them, yes.
You did? Yeah. Which one did you do?
So I was I was the first published Amaroon's adventure. So I was the start and end of You lose the lot. Again, it's that's you lose the, yeah. It's a weird plant demon thing. I can't pronounce it.
Okay, all right.
But yeah,
I will have to go check that out.
Start and end. Nice. No, awesome. No, again, it's. I do like hearing about things off in the future, because when they do eventually scroll past my Twitter feed, I feel like I had like an insider scoop. Like,
I knew about that ahead of time.
I'm in. No, honestly, thank you so much for taking the time, Sadie. This has been an amazing chat. Again, not unfortunately, we are coming. Like, I think we have run just a smidgen over. But that's how these things go. The last and most important question is obviously I've had your Twitter handle on screen. But the people listening, if they're not, and if the audio only listeners kind of want to hear about your work and stay up to date with this exciting things that the spellcaster things and other things that we can't quite talk about, but the more
the mysterious things,
the mysterious things. Where would be the best place to keep up to date with all that?
So Twitter is a great place, and that is, I will change it someday. It's at incandescent, but it's because I like artsy words. But it's spelled. The ending is it's like incandescent. There's a little a hidden in there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's artsy and
it's like that. You can always it's weird how quickly on Twitter you look for handles more than the actual
I know. Yeah. That's the best place to keep up with me. You'll see you'll even see pictures of me. I wanted to show you. I never got the chance because we didn't talk about anything spooky, but my husband got me this moon for my birthday, and it gives out a red light, and I was going to be super spooky.
Is it flat, or is it like a whole sphere?
It's a whole sphere. Whoa. And I can change its color. So if you want to keep up with me and my new moon, my creepy moon pictures.
I was surprised you didn't just have it kind of on your lap in a red ominous glow, and I would have just I should have. Yeah, this whole time I was waiting. That's a weird glow, but I shouldn't say anything about it. It's probably
yeah. If you want to keep up with me and my new very creepy moon, follow me on Twitter, and there will probably be adventures and supplements that come with it.
Nice. Again, I'm going to be refreshing Twitter after this podcast to see when this like.
So I have 499 followers right now. So maybe one of your lucky listeners will be follower 500.
I suppose here's the thing, the unfortunate thing being, obviously we're recording this on the weekend and it's not going to come out.
This will publish and I'll already be over 500.
You're probably already on 600. Let's aim for the moon. But anyway, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I've been Matthew Whitby. You can find me at Whitby Writes on Twitter. Final question then, before we end. Sadie, how do you end a podcast?
With a joke.
Oh, have you got anyone?
Yes. Oh shoot. Oh, it just went back. Okay. I can't tell that one on there.
In fairness, we have.
Okay. Well, okay, there's always, my science puns are so bad that you might as well just take them out and back and bury them.
That's perfect.